Module 7, Past Tense, Passé Composé. This module is about passé composé. It is the most common past tense in French for completed actions. Le passé composé raconte ici que est déjà arrivé means the passé composé tells what has already happened. You will learn formation with avoir for 95% of verbs, formation with être for motion and change verbs, past participles both regular and irregular, common past time expressions like here and la semaine dernière, and practice conversations in the past tense. By the end, you will describe what you did yesterday, last week, or earlier today, narrate experiences, and tell stories with confidence. Module 7. Introduction. Talking about the past. The goal is to master passé composé, the past tense French speakers use most for completed actions. This matters because you need it to say what happened yesterday, last week, or earlier today. It is used constantly in spoken and written French, and it is the foundation for narrating experiences and telling stories. This module covers formation with avoir for 95% of verbs, formation with être for motion and change verbs like olla and pata, regular and irregular past participles, common past time expressions, and practice conversations. By the end, you will describe past events, narrate what you did, and hold conversations about what has already happened. Introduction. Introduction. Talking about the past. The goal is to master passé composé, the past tense French speakers use most for completed actions. This matters because you need it to say what happened yesterday, last week, or earlier today. It is used constantly in spoken and written French, and it is the foundation for narrating experiences and telling stories. Formation with avoir. The formula. This is the most common structure. It covers 95% of all French verbs. The formula is simple. Subject plus present tense of avoir plus the past participle. For J you use J, for to you use to as, for IL or L you use IL or LA, for news you use news events, for vous you use vous avez, for ILS or else you use ILS ONT or else Ontario. Then add the past participle. Example, J mange du riz means I eat rice. J is avoir, mange is the past participle of manger. That's the whole pattern. Subject, avoir, past participle. This is the default for passé composé. If a verb doesn't use être, it uses this avoir formula. Regular past participles. The pattern. There are 3 rows based on the infinitive ending. For verbs, drop, anade, manger becomes mange, parla becomes par, regada becomes regard. For aya verbs, drop, aya anade, fina becomes fini, choicer becomes choisy. For reverbs, drop, re anadu, vendre becomes vendu, attendre becomes attendu. Examples, tu as fini ton travail means you finished your work. Ayale vendu essa voiture means he sold his car. News events regard on film means we watched a movie. Key rule with avoir, the past participle does not change to match the subject. J mange, L mange, news events mange. The ending stays the same. Regular. Common irregular past participles. Must memorize. These don't follow the A, I, U rules. You have to learn them. Group 1 often ends in U. Avoir becomes EU, être becomes ate, faire becomes fate, voir becomes vu, boy becomes bu, lire becomes lu, savoir becomes su, devoir becomes du, pouvoir becomes pu, vouloir becomes voulu. Group 2 often ends in is or it. Prendre becomes pre, mettre becomes mis, dire becomes dit, écrire becomes écrit. Examples. J'ai fait mes devoirs means I did my homework. Elle dit bonjour means he said hello. Elle a pris le bus means she took the bus. No shortcuts here. Drill these until they are automatic because they show up constantly in passé composé. Common. Negation with au revoir. Sandwich rule. To make passé composé negative, you wrap any and pas around the helper verb au revoir, not the past participle. Structure is subject plus any plus au revoir plus pas plus past participle. Example, je n'ai pas mangé means I did not eat. Tu n'as pas fini means you did not finish. News and events pas regard means we did not watch. Key point, any, pas makes a sandwich with au revoir in the middle. The past participle stays outside. Common mistake is je n'ai pas mangé. That is wrong. Correct is je n'ai pas mangé. Remember, only au revoir gets sandwich when you use au revoir as the helper. Formation with theory. Special verbs, agreement, examples, and negation. Passé composé with underscore être underscore is used for two groups of verbs. First is dia mas van der Trump verbs which show motion or change of state, devenir, revenir, monta, resta, sota, vena, alla, neta, descendra, entrer, rentrea, tuma, retorna, arriva, moria, pata. Second is all reflexive verbs like esi leva, esi culture, es habila, esi revelia. The formula is subject plus the present tense of underscore être underscore plus the past participle. Conjugate underscore être underscore as je suis, tu es, Illinois est, elle est, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont, elles sont. Then add the past participle of the main verb. Unlike with underscore au revoir underscore, the past participle must agree in gender and number with the subject. That means you add if the subject is feminine singular, s if the subject is masculine plural, and es if the subject is feminine plural. If the subject is masculine singular, no ending is added. Examples, je suis allé au marché for a man speaking, je suis allé au marché for a woman speaking. Il est arrivé tôt, elle est arrivée tôt. Nous sommes partis here, elles sont partis here. For reflexive verbs, je me suis levé or je me suis levé, Illinois est couche, elle est couché, nous sommes habiles. For negation, the any perhaps around the underscore être underscore helper, not the past participle. Je n'y suis pas allé, elle n'est pas venue, nous sommes pas leaves taught. The most common mistake is forgetting agreement. Elle est allé is wrong because elle is feminine so it must be elle est allé. Another mistake is using underscore au revoir underscore with these verbs. Je allé is wrong. It must be je suis allé. To remember which verbs take underscore être underscore, think of the house of être or dia mas van der Trump. Any verb showing movement into or out of a place, or a change in life status like birth and death, uses underscore être underscore. All reflexive verbs use underscore être underscore no matter what the meaning is. This agreement rule only applies with underscore être underscore, never with underscore au revoir underscore. Formation. Au revoir versus theory. Comparison. The choice between au revoir and être determines the entire structure of passé composé. Au revoir is the default helper and is used for 95% of all French verbs. This includes most action verbs like manger, fina, vendre, parler, regarder, écouter, faire, dire, voir. With au revoir, the past participle never changes to match the subject. Je mange, elle mange, nous avons mange. The ending stays fixed. Être is the exception and is used only for two specific groups. First are dia mas van der Trump verbs that show motion or change of state, olla, vena, arriva, pata, entrer, sota, monta, descendra, neta, moria, resta, retorna, tuma, rentrea, devenir, revenir. Second are all reflexive verbs that use esi, like esi leva, esi culture, es habila, esi revelia. With être, the past participle must agree in gender and number with the subject. You add e for feminine singular, s for masculine plural, and es for feminine plural. Elle est oli, ils sont partis, elles sont venues. Negation works the same for both any perhaps around the helper verb. Je n'ai pas mangé, je n'y suis pas allé. Memory trick for être verbs is the house of être. Picture a house and think of movement through it. Enter, go up, come down, live, arrive, return, fall, stay, be born, die. If the verb fits the idea of movement or life change, it probably takes etra. If not, use over. Also remember that 6 of the DRMRS Van der Trump verbs can take over when they have a direct object, like sota, monta, descendra, rentrea, returner, passa. Je sorti le poubelle uses over because there is a direct object. Je suis sorti uses etre because there is no object. When in doubt, check if the verb is reflexive or in the house of etre. If yes, use etre and agree. If no, use over and do not agree. Time expressions for the past. These words and phrases signal that you should use passé composé because they point to a completed action in the past. The most common are here, which means yesterday, here soir meaning last night, here matin meaning yesterday morning, here après-midi meaning yesterday afternoon, la semaine dernière meaning last week, le mois dernier meaning last month, l'année dernière meaning last year, le weekend dernier meaning last weekend, lundi dernier meaning last Monday, Illinois why 2 jours meaning 2 days ago, Illinois why 3 semaines meaning 3 weeks ago, si matin meaning this morning, si après-midi meaning this afternoon, si soir meaning tonight but used when talking about earlier tonight, déjà meaning already, on for meaning once, plusieurs for meaning several times, soudain meaning suddenly, tout à coup meaning all of a sudden. Examples in sentences. J'ai mangé du poulet hier soir means I ate chicken last night. Nous sommes allés au Paris la semaine dernière means we went to Paris last week. Elle est née à y 20 ans means she was born 20 years ago. ILS ont fini le projet ce matin means they finished the project this morning. Key point. These expressions locate the action in a finished time frame. If the time frame is completed and not ongoing, use passé composé. Compare with imparfait, which is used for habitual past or background description. Passé composé answers the question what happened. These time markers force passé composé because they define a specific completed moment. Use them to anchor your story in the past. J'ai déjà vu ce film means I have already seen this film. Il pleut soudain means it rained suddenly. The presence of these expressions is your cue to switch from present to past tense. Time. Conclusion. Mastering passé composé. Passé composé is the foundation for talking about the past in French. It lets you say what happened, what you did, and what you finished. The structure is always subject plus helper verb plus past participle. Choose avoir for 95% of verbs. Manger becomes J mange, fina becomes tu as fini, vendre becomes il vendu. With avoir, the past participle never changes to match the subject. Choose etre for DRMRS Van der Trump verbs of motion and change, and for all reflexive verbs. Alla becomes je suis allé, vena becomes elle est venu, esi leva becomes news some leaves. With etre, the past participle must agree with the subject in gender and number. Adi for feminine, s for plural, es for feminine plural. For negation, wrap any, pour around the helper verb. Jeni pour mange, jeni suis parler. Time expressions like here, la semaine dernière, Illinois why 2 jours, si matin signal passé composé because they mark a completed action. The most common errors are using the wrong helper, forgetting agreement with etre, putting any, pour in the wrong spot, and using the wrong past participle for irregular verbs. Fix them by asking which helper the verb takes, checking the subject for agreement, remembering the sandwich rule for negation, and drilling irregulars like eu, ate, fait, pre, mis, dit, vu. Your next steps are to practice with daily routine questions. Write 3 sentences about what you did yesterday, and speak them out loud. Passé composé is not about theory. It is about habit. The more you use j'ai fait, je suis allé, elle n'est pas compris, the more automatic it becomes. You now have the tools to move your French from the present into the past.